Hi, this is Kelly from 1-2 Plus Me and You, and today I'm going to show you how to make a crayon roll. Here's one that's already made. As you can see, there's a spot for each of the crayons. This holds a 16 count box of crayons, and you can roll it up nicely into this compact little shape, and then it's got some strings on the end where you can tie it, you know, like you're tying a shoe, which I can't do with one hand, but you get the idea. And that fits nicely inside a purse, a diaper bag, suitcase. It would fit fine in your car or one of those organizers if you have in your car. We love just to take them with us wherever we go out, especially if we're going to a restaurant. They usually give you about 2 crayons in a package, and my son's favorite color is orange, and they never have the orange, so we are set when we take our crayon roll with us. And you can easily find some really small coloring books, and this just, like I said, does not take up any space at all. And you can always wash it. It's cute. You can wash it if you need to. So what do you need in order to make your crayon roll? Well, I actually have extra fabric left over from this because I made these for a busy bag party quite a while back, and I actually had some left over, and I'm going to be using it today to make another one. So you're going to find a type of fabric, and I'm using this robot pattern here, and that's going to be for the outside of it as well as the inside. So you need to cut 2 strips that are 5 inches by 16.5 inches, and then you'll also want to get a piece of flannel that is the same size. That's the 5 inch by 16.5 inches. And it doesn't really matter what this looks like because it's going to be going on the inside as kind of a batting. So I have that. And then I have a piece of fabric that's going to be used to make the pockets. And you could use something that it also has another design on it. I just picked something that was basic because I wanted to have a good match, and I ended up using some fabric that I already had at home. So I went ahead and cut this 6 inches by 16.5 inches. So it's not the same size as the other 3 because this one, as you can see, it's got a crease in it. This one will be folded when you go ahead and make your pockets. So I did that just to kind of put all my pieces together and unfolded it to show you. The last 2 pieces that you will want to cut are the strips here for the end for the ties. These will be 2 inches by 13 inches, and I'll show you how to make the ties later on when we get to that point. But that's all the fabric that you'll need. So it's not a whole lot of fabric to make this crayon roll. You will also need some type of marking pencil and some pins. Obviously you'll need a sewing machine and corresponding thread, you know, scissors, whatever you would need for a normal sewing project, but you don't always need a marking pencil. So this is just a regular colored pencil. I tend to use the white and the yellow whenever I can't find my marking pencils, but it's the same. It washes out, so it's fine. So these are the materials that you'll need to make the crayon roll. Once you have all of your materials, we're going to go ahead and do step 1. And with step 1, you are just going to take your flannel. So that's going to be the part you want on the bottom. And it doesn't matter which side because, again, the flannel is going in the middle. Then you're going to take one of your robot pieces, as I will call them. It could be, you know, whatever you want to do. I think I made robots for the boys, and then the girls I made like strawberry shortcake. And so you're going to just put that right on top, and I will smooth that out a little bit better when I have 2 hands. Then you're going to take the pocket piece, fold it in half, and then you're going to put that right on here, kind of make it look like this in a way. So you're going to put that right, and you want your ends to meet. So you want the flannel corner to meet the robot corner to meet this corner, and then of course you want to line them up. And I'm actually going to go ahead and pause and do that real quick just to make sure that you have a look to see what that should look like. Okay, so I went ahead and laid these out again. So on the bottom is the flannel, then I put a robot on the top, and then I folded the pocket and put that on, and again I matched up all of my corners. I transferred this over to my cutting board just because it will be easier when I'm marking, and that's what you're going to be doing next. So what you want to do is you want to measure, and again it's 16.5 inches, but you want to measure the halfway point, and you're going to mark that with your pencil with a flat edge. So again, this is a good time to get your ruler or any other mats that you have that you're going to be using to do the straight edge. So half of 16.5 would be 8 1/4. So you want to find 8 1/4, and then you're going to mark it. And then I would mark it again at the top. So bring your tape up here, mark it at the top, and then draw your line connecting the two. And then once you've gone ahead and do that, then you're going to go over an inch. So it'd be, I guess, 9 1/4. You're going to mark it down here, mark it up here, and then draw a line. Then you're going to go back to that center line, and you're going to go an inch this way. So it'd be 7 1/4 here. Mark it here, draw your line down. And you're going to keep going back and forth until you get all the way to the end, and you're just going to be going 1 inch at a time. Okay, so then 10 1/4, 6 1/4, 11 1/4, and then so on until you're all done. So that's the next step, is marking just the blue part of the fabric. Okay, now that I've gone through and I've made my marks, and you can count through, there should be a nice big space for 16 crayons. And of course there will be a little bit left over on each side, because that will allow for the seam allowance, because you'll end up having to sew a little bit. So you don't want to have the lines exactly at the end of the fabric. You want to have a little bit of leeway there. And as you notice, I've also put some pins in there just to hold it in place, because now what you're going to do is you're going to sew down each line, and that's going to be connecting the pocket to the other two pieces of fabric, as well as creating these individual pockets. So you'll want to have some corresponding thread, something, it doesn't matter, because it's not going to be coming through on the other side of the crayon roll, because that side is still over there waiting. But you'll want to find something that matches your pocket. So you will start sewing the same way you started marking, in the middle, and then you are going to backstitch just a bit here, sew all the way down, backstitch, and then you will go to the next one, backstitch, sew all the way down, backstitch, and then instead of keep going here, you're going to go back here again, and then do this one. And then you can go down one, and then go back up one, and then go down and then up, and then keep going that way, just to make sure that there's no unnecessary bubbles or things like that in your pockets. So you're making everything flat and even. So that is the next step. Okay, now that you have sewn the pocket on, and actually I should be fair and tell you that I went through and not only sewed it down, backstitch, sewed it down and backstitch, I did that twice. So just to make sure that it is more secure, and with little hands just tugging, and they're not quite sure how the pockets work just yet, we wouldn't want it to rip or anything, and I'm sure it'd be just fine. But I went through and sewed each line twice. Now what you'll need to do is grab those pieces that you will be making the straps. And what you're going to need now is your iron. Okay, so I've taken my strap and I moved it over to the ironing board. And what you're going to do is just now fold it down up so it's about 1/4 of an inch. And then you're just going to press it. So that stays down. A little bit more. And then you're going to do the same thing on the bottom. You are going to now turn it up. And so those ends meet. I don't know if you can see. So just to this point. So again, another 1/4 inch. And you're going to press that. So we'll just keep this corner here for a second. So it stays down. And then you're going to press it down. And again, the ironing helps it stay in place. It's not all over. I just turned my iron on, so I probably want to iron that again, but this is where you get it all to work out the way you want. And then you fold again, top to bottom. And now you have this nice thin strap. So again, let's just iron it down. Very easy to do this. I like using straps. I make lots of different things, lots of different holders, and I have done buttons and with elastic, and I've done various things, and I can tell you that I really like the strap. So there you go. There's one. And you want to grab your other strap, do the exact same thing, and then we'll be ready to go ahead and sew the straps. Alright, now that you've gone ahead and ironed down your straps and actually made them straps, now you're going to sew them. And I find it very difficult to sew a very narrow piece of fabric like this. I know that there are gadgets out there. I just haven't used any of them for making these. And if you're just using basic sewing machine, I would suggest using a small zigzag stitch, and you're going to start from the top of one end and go all the way down. Once you've gone ahead and sewn from top to bottom, connecting the two sides together of your strap, then you want to sew the end. And you're going to be using the same zigzag stitch, just going back and forth a couple of times to seal it off. And you only need to sew one end because the other end will be stuffed inside the crayon roll. This is the part that will be sticking out. So you'll be sewing the two ends, for actually one end, but for two straps. And that's what you need to do next. Alright, now you are ready to sew your crayon roll. What you want to do is take those straps that you just sewed. You want to find the two ends that you sewed, and those are going to go on the inside of the crayon roll. Well, just for right now, because you're going to be sewing, I guess you could say, the back on. So you want to have them hang over the edge just a teeny tiny bit, and you want them to be kind of flat, laying next to each other, so one on top of the other. And you want it to be in the area where the pockets meet the robot fabric. So again, that's what we'll call it. So you'll have it be maybe right above that, side by side. And then this is going to be right in the middle, because you're going to be sewing on the edges and you don't want to accidentally sew that. Then you take your robot fabric and you are going to be putting right sides together. So the side that's facing up is actually the back of the material. It's kind of hard to see that, but that's exactly what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the back of the fabric, or the inside, I guess you could say, the wrong side. And I'm going to go ahead and pin this, making sure that I kind of have this pinned in place as well because I don't really want these to move. And I'm just going to sew it all together. I'm going to be leaving myself about 2.5 to 3 inches of area where I don't sew because that's where I'm going to be flipping it right side out. You do not want the flipping area to be over here because that would just be too messy. This part you really want to have secure when you're sewing. So I maybe pick a part in the middle, on the bottom, or on the top, or even over here. But it's not leaving you that much room, so it's up to you. But not the whole area, just the little bit in the middle, because sometimes it's difficult to sew those corners if you haven't already sewn it the first time. So that's what you're going to do next, is pin it. And then once you get over here to these straps, you're going to want to go back and forth over this a few times. I probably do it like 3 times. So I'll sew along, and then I'll stop, and then I'll backstitch, and then I'll sew again, and then I'm on backstitch. Just because you don't know how rough the kids are going to be with these straps, and you really want to make sure that they're on there. So it's a really good idea to sew those a few times and then to keep going around. And once you've done that, then we're on the home stretch to finishing up. So go ahead and pin and sew around, leave yourself that space, and then we'll be ready to flip. And just briefly before I forget to mention, you'll want to be sewing very closely along to the edge. So they'd say maybe it's about that 1/4 inch mark when you're lining it up with your machine. So it's very close to the edge, and it's just a straight sew. Okay, so I've gone along and I've sewed along the edges, and I left some space open on the top. Again, I think the top is actually the best place to leave the space. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim my corners. Anything that usually you sew that is straight, square, rectangle, you'll want to make sure that you cut the corners. So you're just going to trim off a little bit of the edge and make sure that you're not actually trimming any of the thread that you just put in there with your sewing machine. And then once you're done, then you're ready to flip it right side out. Okay, so after you've cut your corners, so there's my little corner there, you're going to be pulling it apart, and you will find that there are a few layers because, again, you have that flannel. You want to get in between the 2 robot layers, and what you're going to do is just pull it through that hole, which I can't really do with one hand. So, yeah, there you go. Okay, so when you pull it out, again, those corners will need to be pushed all the way through. So you can do that with your thumb, or you can take the end of a pencil and push that through. Do not use your scissors or anything sharp because you could poke a hole in it, and then you'd have to go back and fix it. So we're just pushing through, and again, you want to really focus on those corners. And then you're going to just pull the rest of it through, like so. And again, get those corners really well. And you're going to end up ironing this next, just to make sure it's nice and flat, because you have to top stitch that area where you pulled everything through. And so, yeah. And you'll want it to be nice and flat. You know, this will be tucked under as long as you sew it correctly, or not sew it correctly, but iron it correctly. And then again, you still can get in there with the pencil. And once I pull my corners out, see, there's your straps all nice and with coming out of the fabric. Again, the right spot right there in the middle. Now you're going to be taking this over to the iron. Okay, now I brought over my crayon roll to the ironing board, and it'd be a good idea to kind of flip it over to find out where the ends are. It's easier to tell on the back than it is on the pocket side, and then you can just kind of smooth it out. Again, here's the part where I have to top stitch. So I just want that to kind of be flush with the rest of it. So I'm going to fold it under to where it is, in fact, flush. And I want it to be nice and flat. And then I'm going to take my iron, and I'm going to just make sure that it's all flattened out best I can. And then I'm going to go back through and top stitch this 2.5 to 3 inch area that did not get sewn. And once I've done that, then I'm all done. So again, here you may want to pin this. It's entirely up to you, but it should be folded down on both sides before you go ahead and then sew that. And then as you can see here, you have 16 beautiful sections for crayons, which we will fill in after we top stitch. Alright, once you've gone ahead and top stitched, now all you have left to do is put in your crayons, and they fit in like so. And once you get them all in, then actually let's just show you what it looks like. It's actually very fast to get them all in, and it's a really great fine motor skill for the little ones. My son is 2, and he just loves taking them in and out of the pockets. And then they all fit in there perfectly. Then all you have to do is just take an end and roll. Take one strap over, one strap under, and then you could do so again. And then you are just going to tie it like a shoe. And that's it. Ready to go with you wherever you are taking your kids. Fits in your purse, fits in your diaper bag. Really easy just to stash in the car. And you've made a crayon roll.